Do Parrotlet parrots make good pets? And so many people say that you can only have one because they fight. True or myth? Hi, I'm Kaylin, the author of the Parrot Bliss Bond, your handbook to help you know everything that you need to set up and have a quality life, provide that quality life for your parrot so that you can then have quantities of bliss even if you have two parrotlets. So parrotlets make really fantastic pets. They probably are the best apartment pet just because they're so small that they make the least amount of noise. That squawk, for example, was my green cheek. The parrotlets, they can be noisy if you have a lot of them, but if you have one or two, which is the number I always recommend, then they're really not going to be too loud. Generally speaking, you might hear a little chittering, you might hear a little something, but generally speaking, it's not going to be too loud. On a scale for parrots as a whole species being quiet over here and really loud over here, and like cockatoos would be over here, the kind of parrot that's going to affect your hearing. Over here on the quieter side, you're going to have the parrotlets. So they make fantastic pets, even when you have two. Let's talk a little bit about that myth. Now, one thing that I don't understand is people seem to forget a couple of things when they say that you can't have two parrotlets together. One thing they forget is that you can never put two of any species together really without watching them, making sure that they get to know each other, that there's no territory wars, that everything's going to be okay. Many of us have had a dog and brought another dog into the family, and when you introduce that second dog, whether it's a puppy or an adult, you have to watch them and you have to be careful. You have to make sure that one isn't claiming the territory, and you have to train the first one that it's okay that there's now a new dog, that this is actually a new part of the family and a friend for that first dog or cat. As a matter of fact, cats are very specific about how you introduce them. You have to put cats supposedly in different rooms, separated maybe by a door, so that they can smell each other, but they can't see each other, and they can't start to fight or hurt each other. So parrotlets, in that sense, are really no different. No parrot species is. You always have to be careful when you're putting two animals together for the first time. That means you have to supervise, you have to maybe take some steps, you have to do whatever it takes to make sure that that's a smooth process and that no one's getting hurt and that there's no problems. You actually really do have to take steps when you are putting specifically parrots together. In most pet shops and most rescues, you will find that actually the larger parrots tend to be in their own cage. They aren't necessarily put in with other parrots. When I go to exotic bird stores, I find that even the baby parrots, baby macaws, baby eclectus, capes, they are often in their own cages. The exception is if they came in together and they were in the same nest box and came from the same place. Now, part of that is because of the germs. In other words, you're used to a certain kind of bacteria. So wherever a parrot is raised, in their nest box, there's a certain kind of bacteria. And the next nest box over, which may be the same species but different parrots, they're going to have slightly different and their own bacteria. So part of it is to make sure that everyone stays happy and healthy. However, the little smaller parrots tend to be put together. They tend to put lovebirds together, green cheeks together, but they do have to watch and make sure that they get along. So generally speaking, you can put smaller parrots together, but my point is, it's funny to me that people say that parrotlets can't be together when I feel like you can't put larger parrots together either. You can take steps towards it, like I did with my macaws. It took months before we brought our two macaws comfortably and safely together in the same cage. For a long time before that, we took the same steps that you should take with any parrots, which is we put them in cages side by side so that they were both safe and secure. We brought the cages closer together as they seemed to get more and more comfortable with each other. We had time when they were out of their cages, supervised and together, to see how they would interact and get along with each other. So the same can be true of your parrotlets. Generally speaking, I don't find that you need to take those steps of watching and giving everyone their own space. I find that you don't have to do that with parrotlets if you take some other steps. Some of the other steps are anytime you have two parrots together, the cage requirements increase. In other words, if the cage requirement, let's say, was 2 feet for a parrot, if you put 2 in, that might become 3 feet, or whatever you think is appropriate. But the point is, 2 feet no longer is enough space. If you have 3 in, you need even more space. So every time you add a parrot, you really would need to add more space, and not just in width, really in every direction, in width, length, and height. So number one, when I put two parrotlets together, and I usually put them together and watch them, and I can usually tell pretty quickly whether or not they're going to get along. Number one, I make sure that there's plenty of space. I don't have enough space for one parrotlet. I have at least enough space for 2. Number 2, I make sure that the ages match. What I mean by that isn't that they're the same exact months or years old. What I do mean is that babies can mix with babies, but they can't mix with adults. So that combination never bodes well. Not for parrotlets, not for lovebirds. I can't speak to other species, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be true. I can't speak to green cheeks. Most other species, let's retract that. With all of your species, you can put the babies with the babies, but you can't put them with the adults. You have to wait for the babies to catch up and at least be juveniles, which would be the equivalent of like a teenager. They're starting to get hormonal, that kind of thing. Now, there's exceptions to everything, but that's going to be one of our rules if we're going to put parrotlets or other parrots together. So, number 1, there was plenty of space. Number 2, the ages basically match. Number 3, I always make sure that there is enough of whatever is needed, whatever is required to provide my parrotlets with a sense, or any parrot, of safety and security. Safety and security means that there's going to be plenty of food. For these little guys, because they are seed eaters, there's more than one seed eating station. If I have multiple parrotlets, if I have 2 parrotlets, I might just have one seed eating station if they share. I observe them. Observing any parrot is very critical to making sure that your parrot, whether your parrot's alone or whether your parrot's with other parrots, is doing well, is fine, is happy, is comfortable, is flying freely away from me, whatever that may be. Oh my. Mr. Harris, come back. And by the way, this is Sushi. That was Mr. Harris, who is now flying around a little bit. Is Mr. Harris coming back? Thank you. Okay, so I also make sure that there's at least one pellet station, again, if they share. If I have more than 2, if I have 3 or 4 parrotlets, there's definitely more than one seed station and more than one pellet station. Why? In case there's any territory spaces, because you'll find that in an aviary, there are birds, some birds are over here, some birds are over there. They kind of take their mini territories. So I'm sure to have different feeding stations so that there's at least somewhere that parrots can go. And waters, I find they don't quite fight so much over. Water's like, everyone needs access to nice, fresh, clean water. But after that, they can share water. They don't seem to really care about water. I make sure that there are plenty of perches and toys. Plenty of perches so that within the aviary or whatever space a parrot or 2 parrots are in, or more than 2 parrotlets are in, they can own a space because there's perches and branches and swings or whatever it is, coconuts, whatever it is that I'm providing them, so that they have room to relax, they have a space to perch, they have a space to play, those kinds of things. Now, once you have all of that set up, you still might have some issues. Why? because in any species of animals, there's always a pecking order. But certainly there ought to be a pecking order when you have an animal that pecks. So these peckers definitely are going to have that pecking order. The truth is, I've noticed that anytime I go into a workplace or anytime I go into a new anything and there's a new group of us, a leader is always going to emerge. It may not be someone who is naturally an alpha, but lacking an alpha, they rise to the occasion. So maybe they're a good alpha, maybe they're not as good of an alpha. The point is, you're always going to have a pecking order. When I put parrotlets together, or any parrots, one of the first things that I watch for is to see that they're establishing the pecking order and to see that I do not have aggression, territory wars, to see that there is a smooth order coming together, because there's always an order of who does and doesn't get along. And I always look to make sure that feet aren't being bitten. These two, she's nibbling on me, but she's not biting him. There's no bloodshed, there's no fighting, there's no squabbling. I make sure that anything that is occurring is pretty minimal and insignificant. They will definitely do a little squabbling, but that's not the same as something louder and more aggressive. They will, he's stepping on her. She's complaining, so that's a good example. She's complaining, but they're not going after each other for the kill. So you can see that they're getting along. Your first more obvious signs are going to be biting the feet, and certainly if there's any blood. If there's any blood, we always rinse them and disinfect them, which you could just do with hydrogen peroxide. And it may not be necessary. I like to do it. I just want to make sure that there's no issues. And at that point, they need to be separated. It didn't work. A part of successfully bringing any animals together is recognizing when it's not going to work and when you're not going to get to put them together. Maybe you'll get to do it later, maybe not. So one thing is, I also feel like, when people say that you can't have more than one parrotlet in a cage, I just don't understand, because I don't have information. I don't know what they have and haven't done. I don't know if they have a big enough cage. I don't know if they have enough food. Of course, when I bring out veggies, I bring out plenty of veggies when there's more than one parrotlet. I don't know if they observed and they made sure that the parrotlets got along. Sometimes I will have an aggressive parrotlet, and it's happened, and I had to take him out of the aviary. My aviary is so tall that I can comfortably stand in it. I could lie in it, both directions. And there's over 10 parrotlets in there. However, we had to take one couple out. He liked her, he liked his chosen mate, but other than that, he squabbled. It wasn't like this. These two, they're doing a little of stop stepping on me. But do you see how close they are together? They're friends. Then they aren't a bonded pair. They're just really good buddies. And the truth is, they're young. So I can't put them in with the adults. I'm waiting for them to get older to figure out how I'm going to do it. Because another one of our rules is, when we're going to put more than one parrotlet together, okay, that didn't make sense. When we're going to put 2 or more parrotlets together, they have to go into a new cage. That means you need at least 3. They each had 1, so that was 2 cages. And then you need a 3rd cage that's going to be the new territory. And if for any reason you're going to separate them again, they should go back to their cages. So that if one were to stay in that 3rd cage as the neutral cage would no longer be neutral. So when people say that parrotlets don't get along, I really don't understand, because I have 3 aviaries that each have over 10 parrotlets in them. I have followed my own rules. I have observed. I've provided more than ample space, more than ample food stations, water, more than ample perches, things to play with, like those cardboard egg cartons. They love biting those up. And I've seen, do I have an alpha that is aggressive? If I had one, which I did, I removed them. And I've had one more than once. I've also had betas that were too passive, and they were spending their time at the bottom of the cage. That's not normal parrot behavior. That's not where the food is. That's not where they're supposed to live. That one I also took out. So I've had parrotlets that I was not able to integrate, and actually those two are still not integrated. They're in their own cages because they did not fit into the flock. So I think that any animal should be watched. I don't understand why people specifically think that parrotlets can't be put together. Larger parrots, my earlier example, they can be put together, but they too require time. Actually, the steps to getting a larger parrot with another larger parrot takes more time. So it's just weird to me that people say that parrotlets can't live together. Now, I will tell you that I do think that 2 is the magic number. I have aviaries with more than 2, but they're aviaries. They're not cages in a physical size definition. I do have 1 cage that has 4 parrotlets, although today I had to take one of my parrotlets out because she was being bothered. It's like, okay, it's not happening anymore. So it stopped working. You always have to watch your parrots. But when you have a normal, quote unquote, normal size cage, I think the magic number is 2. Certainly, I found this with lovebirds, but with parrotlets at 2, I feel that they'll still bond with you if you spend time with them. They bond with each other, which is fantastic because it supports their well-being. It supports their ability to bridge a parrot world and a human world. And it's twice the fun for you, which is like the most important thing, because then you have twice the bliss. 3, 4, it works, but 3, now there's a third wheel. I don't like that. I feel like it's, then you have one that's odd man out. 4 works fine, but you're starting to have to watch things because, when they get hormonal, you might have problems. 2 is the magic number, I find, probably for any parrots, unless they're in a much larger aviary. Like I said, it allows them to bridge. It allows them to really be comfortable, happy, and safe and secure if you want to bridge the 2 worlds. If you just want an aviary filled with beautiful parrots that are just flying around and being a flock, give them lots of space and have several. I don't have a magic rule for how many per square inch or anything like that. You need lots of space. And I do feel like it's a little exponential. If you have 1, you don't need as much space. If you have 2, you don't add, just a little bit of space because you just have a little more wingspan. It's not like that. So you really want to watch and add plenty of space. The more space you can add, always the better. Thank you for joining me in this myth busting, I hope, video, because I see that often. And then sometimes people comment below on YouTube and say, thank you for saying that. Why do people say that? Parrotlets shouldn't be left alone. They are flock animals. Actually, being a smaller parrot, they rely on the strength in numbers. And so having one by themselves in most species of parrots is actually not serving their needs, and I would be so bold as to say it's kind of cruel. Instead, having them in at least a flock of 2 allows them to be the flock animal, find the strength, find the love, find the well-being of someone else who will groom them and relate to them as a parrot. So I think it's really super important. I appreciate those of you that post. Whether you agree with me or not, if you have had a different experience, you can let me know. But again, if you tell me, well, my parrotlets hurt each other, I can't validate or invalidate anything like that because I'm not there to see what's going on. You really have to observe your parrots. When you observe your parrots, you're able to meet their needs, however that may be, whatever it is that they might need, which I think is vitally important when you have chosen to take on another life and take care of it and its well-being. As always, thank you for joining me in, look at this loving, blissful video. Hopefully I got some pictures up there for you to show you some of what I was talking about. Please be sure to get your bottle of Tink's must-have Parrot Relief. It is CBD oil that is going to help your parrot. If your parrot is stressed, like if one of them bites the other, you might want to give the one that has been bitten maybe the aggressor too, some parrot relief to help them de-stress. It does get rid of some pain and it helps them relax, because otherwise sometimes whenever they have an imperfection, they go at it. Why? Well, because they don't like to show weakness. Another really important video. Next time, why don't parrots like to show weakness? What's going on there and what happens when they do? Thank you for joining me in this blissful video. I'm going to end with something so cute for you. And in the meantime, please be sure to comment below. You can join our group at Parrot Bliss Flock on Facebook. And in there, I have the youngest baby. You can totally see he's in his igloo, or she. She's kind of facing the wrong way, but hey, sweetie, hi. How cute is that? See, I have her in a separate space because she's a little younger, and so I have to meet her needs. Thank you for joining me, and I will catch you in the next blissful feathered video.